territory. Israeli strikes have killed at least 1,350 people since Saturday's attack by Hamas. In Israel, the death toll from Hamas's attack is at least 1,300, and bodies are still being found. The crisis in Israel is offering an opportunity for Democrats to bridge a foreign policy divide that Republicans have exploited for years and to unify their party behind a president facing one of the biggest geopolitical challenges in the region in decades. Multiple lawmakers refused to honor their party's internal selection of Steve Scalise, congressman from Louisiana, who was voted as the next Speaker of the House, at least in an internal meeting that the GOP held. Now, the refusal of some members of the GOP party to vote for Scalise is continuing the chaos over the speakership with no end in sight. For Republicans, Wednesday was just the latest episode in the now familiar cycle of GOP dysfunction in the House. And Montana is at the forefront of a crusade by state Republican officials to rein in big tech. Republican governors, attorneys generals, lawmakers, and conservative policy groups say the internet platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat are undermining conservative family values and preventing parents from protecting their children from harmful content and online predators. These Republican lawmakers want to restrict the use of social media sites like TikTok, and some states even want to go further. Negotiations between the major entertainment studios and the union representing tens of thousands of actors have collapsed, with both parties saying this morning that they remain far apart on the most significant issues. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which bargains on behalf of the studios, said that it was suspending talks because they were no longer moving in a productive direction. And representatives of SAG-AFTRA, the actors union, accused the studios of bully tactics and said the studio's recent proposal was so shocking because it was less than what they proposed before the strike began. And Manhattan federal prosecutors have filed fresh charges against New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez and his wife Nadine, as well as a third defendant, Wael Hana. Now, this new indictment or these new charges accuses them, the three of them, of conspiring to have the senator act as a foreign agent without registering with the Justice Department. The prosecutors have asked a judge to seize the residence that the Menendez couple lives in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, and to also seize a Mercedes-Benz convertible that the government says was given to the Menendezes as a bribe. And Representative Steve Scalise, as I said, is having some difficulties because many in his party refuse to vote for him. He does not have the 217 votes required to win the leadership position in the House. And this chaos in the Republican Party is happening as other members of the House and Senate want to move forward with passing legislation to provide additional military aid to Israel as they try to counter the attack made on them and the people of Israel during the attack by Hamas. You are listening to Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I am joined by Dr. Calvin John Smiley. He is an author and also a professor at CUNY New York University. Also, Isaac Wilson is here. He's a Democratic strategist and chair of the Democratic Party of Florence County, South Carolina. And in hour two, we're going to do something very different today. Tavis Smiley will host part two of a series he's calling The Tape. He will be in conversation with Los Angeles community leaders and thought leaders on the one-year anniversary of the leaked city council tape in which Latino lawmakers are heard disparaging African-American elected officials and scheming to create a city council that empowers more Latin American elected officials while diminishing the power of Black voters, residents in the city of Los Angeles, and Black elected officials. Now, I participated in part 1 of this series on Tuesday, and trust me, it was riveting. So make sure you stay tuned in today for part 2 of the tape, and it will be broadcast from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. PST, and again, hosted by none other than our very own Tavis Smiley. But before I bring on my contributors to break down today's news, here's what I'm thinking in real time. Now, the weekend attack on Israel by Hamas has left literally thousands of Israelis and Palestinians, seeking shelter. Thousands of people have lost their lives. We are hearing about this humanitarian crisis, which is developing in Palestine as residents there cannot get access to food and water. Over 200,000 people have even lost electricity. This crisis, this terrorist attack, has had a profound impact on not just the people in those 2 regions, but also on Americans. Many Americans are angry and frustrated and upset and even emotionally overwrought. And the range of emotions have been playing out over the last couple of days. And particularly, we are seeing the impact of this crisis on college campuses. You may have seen the story about some students at Harvard University, my alma mater, that penned a letter expressing their support for the Palestinians. Well, this letter became public, and the backlash to the letter and to the students has been swift and has been incredibly, incredibly harsh. In fact, we have corporate leaders now demanding that Harvard University release the names of the students who played any part in the drafting of the letter. And these business leaders, these corporate executives, have even gone further. They are saying that these students, whoever was involved in drafting this letter, should be banned from corporate America, that they should not be hired by companies. Some students have reported even losing their jobs. There was an NYU student, New York University law student, who had an offer from a firm, and that firm rescinded the offer because of statements this particular law student made, again, in support of the Palestinians. Now, I am really, really, really troubled by the response of these corporate leaders. I understand that tensions are just very high at this point, and what has happened to Israel is just inexcusable. There is never, ever, ever an excuse for terrorist attacks like the one we saw over the weekend by Hamas. But we are talking about college students, and we know the college students are still in the process of developing. They are young people that need so much support and so much guidance. I happen to have 2 of them myself, so I know how much support and guidance they need. And in this moment, I'm going to borrow a phrase that one of my colleagues, Dr. Nee, who is also a host right here on KBLA, likes to say. And he likes to say, we need more counseling than canceling. And I agree, in this moment, these students don't need to be canceled. They don't need to be banned from corporate America. They don't need to have their jobs, snatched from them. They need counseling. They need an opportunity to talk about their feelings in a safe space. And that's what a college or a university should be. They need the guidance and the support of the professors on those college campuses. And these corporate leaders, they really, to me, gone way too far. They are criticizing the newly appointed African-American female president of Harvard, saying that she didn't come out and condemn the attack by Hamas fast enough, and that somehow by not doing it fast enough, she was supportive of the attack. That's ridiculous. I just think everybody needs to take the temperature down. We understand that this is a crisis, that no one saw coming. We know that thousands of people have lost their lives. We know that people are hurting emotionally. But in this moment, canceling students and preventing them from pursuing their careers and, being productive young adults that's not the answer. That is not the answer. Next week, I'm so troubled by this. I'm going to do a whole show, bring on some experts, and hopefully bring on some of those students so we can have a conversation in a safe space about how people are feeling. Look, the issues in Israel and between the Israelis and the Palestinians, very, very, very complex issues. And you cannot begin to have conversations about these complexities without understanding all of the nuances. And so I would just ask that in this moment that we continue to pray and hold up the people whose lives, their family members who have lost loved ones, the family members who are still searching and hoping that loved ones that have been kidnapped, that they return home safely. And we pray for some kind of peaceful resolution of this crisis. That we continue to support the Israeli people who have been attacked, and we continue to denounce violence and terrorism wherever it may happen. And most importantly, that we wrap our arms around our young people who are hurting, and we guide them and we comfort them in this moment. And we never, ever cancel them simply because they are finding their way. When we come forward, more on today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Areva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Areva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader. If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow
the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
We are back, and in this hour, we are tracking today's trending and breaking news. And in hour 2, it is part 2 of the tape. Will be hosted by none other than our own Tavis Smiley. He's going to be in conversation with community and thought leaders about the leaked tape that revealed some Latino city council members in Los Angeles plotting and scheming to undermine the political power of African Americans in the city of Los Angeles. So make sure you stick around for hour 2. That's going to be a 2-hour special, and it is part 2 of the tape. I am so grateful to have with me on this really busy news day, Dr. John Smiley, Dr. Calvin John Smiley, I'm sorry. And we're trying to get Isaac Wilson on the phone. I think we're going to get him. He's having a little technical difficulties. Dr. Smiley, you're a professor. That story about the students at Harvard and these corporate leaders calling for these students to be banned from jobs and even terminating that one student that's come forward from NYU, that's just ridiculous. Adults acting like children, petulant children. I'm just so disgusted by that. What are you thinking about that as a professor that's on a campus that's having to deal with all of these emotions that, these students must have during this really difficult time?
Sure. The first thing and the most obvious thing that comes to mind is, First Amendment rights, freedom of speech. The students at Harvard, I also read the letter. It's been circulating social media. Standing with Palestine is not standing with Hamas. It's not standing with terrorism. It's standing with civilians. It's standing with mothers, fathers, children, people who thought like the Israeli folks that they were going to go to the movies on Saturday or go kick a soccer ball on Sunday and have lunch with their friend on Tuesday. And that didn't happen. And so we have to really contextualize that part. But to the more and deeper and the more troubling sentiment is that if you say anything that's not, I guess, in line with a certain viewpoint, you're automatically thrown into a different camp. And that is what's also very troubling. And I see that on not only my campus, but, in talking with colleagues and friends, like, how do you broach this conversation in a classroom? I taught today, and, I was kind of like, okay, we're going to be talking about dominant and minority groups in my race and ethnicity class, right? So how do we have conversations about this, not only historically, but also in contemporary times, to really give contextualization of what is happening here? Because I know, as you also said, Areva, at the top of the hour, is like, this is a complex issue. It didn't just start on Saturday. So oftentimes, having these conversations can be difficult, but they must be had. And, plucking out one or two sound bites to make someone look bad is very disingenuous.
And you're right, and I agree with you. And you can walk and chew gum at the same time. It's not a binary choice. You can definitely stand with the innocent victims in Palestine who are losing their lives, and not at all be voicing any support for Hamas or any terrorist. But I want to talk about these, the people that are saying, fire people, don't hire them. I think that's what outrages me more. Can you imagine you're 21 years old, you're on a college campus, you're 20 years old, you get caught up in something, and now someone is saying for the rest of your life you shouldn't work because you've now taken a position? Is that what we want to be as a nation? College, everybody is right, radical, and not everybody, but this is a place where you're supposed to be testing out those ideas. You're supposed to have this is an opportunity where you just get to be free, I thought. And, it should be a safe space. It shouldn't be that because of a comment that you make that you now are banned from working in a particular industry. Right.
And I think, too, as you said, Areva, is this the nation we want to be? It's the nation that we have been. Think about Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick said, hey, can we get some justice for folks being killed by police? Blacklisted from the NFL. We've seen these types of incidents occur before. What we have to do is we have to continue to push back against those types of things that happen. I don't know if I have the playbook on how to do that today, right now, but we have to support folks who are being doxxed and who are being put out there like that. One of the things that I thought about with the Harvard student was that in comments on Twitter was people were putting her address, putting her email address. I mean, that's a really nefarious thing to do, because what are your intentions by doing that, right?
It's to cause that person to suffer, for them to be threatened and humiliated and terrorized.
Which goes against the fundamental part of why you're mad at them, because your claim is that what they're doing is harm, but you want harm done to them. So, there's clearly a moral imbalance in those types of actions that people take.
Yeah, Isaac is now joining us by audio. Isaac, let's move on and talk about the GOP conference that says they stand with Israel, that says they want to advance military aid, but they cannot seem to figure out how to get themselves together so that they can govern, i.e. pick a speaker. And it looked like Steve Scalise was going to be their guy. He can't afford to lose more than 4 votes. And last I heard, there were 14 people, not a lot more than 4, who were saying they were not going to vote for him. What do you make of where the Republican Party is now in the House, and what is likely to happen with this whole speaker position?
Just like everyone else probably in the country is, Areva, nobody is surprised. The Republicans have been in disarray since they elected Donald Trump for president, as the nominee, shall I say. And so the Republican Party has not been the same since then. So we're not surprised that they're having chaos when you had a leader who was about chaos and bringing all of this hate to this country. So they're going to have to figure this thing out, or they're going to be without a representative in whatever district they have, because Democrats, we're coming strong to show you and to keep pressing that these people aren't for you. This is the party of Donald Trump. It's no more the party of John McCain. It's no longer the party of a Ronald Reagan or even a Mitt Romney, who had sensible ideas, who would come to the table and talk about bipartisan issues. So the Republican Party is going to have to figure this out, or they're going to find themselves pretty much out of talks and out of office.
I'm glad you mentioned Ronald Reagan, because you'll remember, Professor Smiley, it was Ronald Reagan who talked about the 11th Amendment, or 11th commandment, not amendment, but commandment, thou shalt not speak poorly about fellow Republicans. I don't know if any of these Republicans ever studied Ronald Reagan, heard, Ronald Reagan make that pronouncement, but they are like on a total opposite end, like thou shalt speak really bad about your fellow Republican, and thou shalt not vote for one, even if it appears to be the one that the majority of the party wants. I guess that's what's so troubling about this. Kevin McCarthy likes to make it known that he was ousted by 4% of his party, and 96%, voted for him. And this is seemingly deja vu. The same thing is being repeated now.
And I'll just say real quick, Areva, that, this is classic textbook authoritarian regime when it crumbles, that, what Donald Trump built or had behind him, now that he's not there, we see factions and it's being fractured and crumbling because he's not at the helm. And so you have people who want to just hold out until their guy gets back into power. They hope their guy gets back into power. And so it's really just showing that the Republican stronghold is really simply just a house of cards made up of a few who really are just trying to sabotage democracy.
And also, Isaac, we saw that Donald Trump doesn't have very long coattails, because Donald Trump's guy is Jim Jordan. And Jim Jordan lost this private secret vote that the GOP had. He did not prevail in that vote. What does that say about where the party is, other than the MAGA base, where they are with respect to Donald Trump?
I think they're sick and tired of it. I think they're tired of being labeled as a circus. They're tired of being labeled as clowns. And so they're trying to get that label off of them. And so they're trying to go a different route. They're saying, hey, let's elect someone. We can still have our ideals, but let's elect someone who is not of Donald Trump's tribe. We can probably go forward and probably put some people in those primaries to get rid of those 10 or 12 people that are causing the trouble. Because I really think Matt Gaetz is gone in his next election, putting up with all the stuff he put up with and brought to Congress. I don't think they're going to deal with that. So I think the masses of the Republican Party is just tired of the circus, and they're trying to go a different way.
What's interesting is they refuse to deal with any Democrats, and the Democrats could help one of these Republicans get elected. Now, Jim Jordan probably wouldn't have gotten any help from Democrats, but they may need Professor Smiley to think about bipartisanship. And we know right now that's like a dirty word amongst Republicans. But
Yeah, and we've
you envision a scenario where they would have to use Democratic votes to get someone elected?
I mean, I think that they probably have to see all things possible. But as you just said, this is a party that for 4+ years has not wanted to do any of that. They have very staunch and strong lines in the sand that they are not crossing. They're willing to allow Congress to shut down. Speaker of the House seems like peanuts to them.
Yeah, and that's the sad part. We're going to be talking about the government shutdown in less than 40 days now. We're going to need a functioning Congress because we're going to have to pass a bill to keep the government open. We're going to continue this conversation when we come forward more about this chaos in the Republican Party. Also, Montana wants to forbid kids in the state from using TikTok. I don't know how well that's going to go over in most households. And we're going to talk about this crisis in the Middle East. What is the solution and what impact might it have on the presidential election when we come forward? KBLA Talk 1580.
There's a new sheriff in town.
All right, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and starting September 18th, I couldn't be more thrilled than invite you to join us for the launch of A More Perfect Union, weekdays right here on KBLA Talk 1580, weekdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific Time, that's 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. A More Perfect Union promises to deliver national news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. As KBLA Talk 1580's chief national political analyst, every day you can expect your daily dose of political news of consequence. If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered to be a part of the solution to issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, A More Perfect Union was designed for you. This daily political affairs show will feature notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and ordinary people motivated to do their part to reach beyond today's divisions, to make sense out of news of the day, and offer us all a chance to build a more perfect union. Come on and join me.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice, and injustice. The courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Areva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Areva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Keep following the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.
We are back, and Professor Calvin John Smiley and Isaac Wilson are here to help us break down today's trending and breaking news. And in hour 2 is part 2 of The Tape. This is a special series hosted by Tavis Smiley on the leaked audio tapes from Los Angeles City Council members, mostly former members, scheming to undermine Black political power in the city of Los Angeles. So make sure you stick around for hour 2. In the break, Professor, I was just reading. I mean, every headline is about the attack by Hamas on Israel. And now the big question is, Israel has vowed to literally kill every member of Hamas. They say the rules of the game have changed. Every Hamas member is marked by death. This is a statement made by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But they have a problem. The problem is that Israel has not been inside of the Gaza Strip for many years. And the belief is that Hamas has built this network of tunnels and, other kinds of, spaces that will make it very difficult. And not to mention the density of this area, 2 million people living in this very small space. So the question is, do they go in with some kind of ground game? And if so, the experts say they aren't likely to win against Hamas in any kind of ground game. But if they just repeatedly bomb, the strip from the air, of course, there are going to be so many casualties of children and women. And we heard Joe Biden in very coded language yesterday telling Israel, be careful. There are rules of war that you must follow, despite how horrific this attack is. And there seems to be this concern that Israel may go too far, and we could see a shift in terms of how the world is now in favor and support of Israel. What's the end game here? Hamas is never going to stop. And I've heard many experts say Hamas is not a group, it's an ideology. So if you kill all the ones that were involved in this terrorist attack over the weekend, well, guess what? There's a whole new, group waiting to embrace the same ideology. So when you're dealing with that, an ideology that is fueling these kinds of attacks, and some of it's so gruesome, beheading children. And some of the photos have just been unbelievable. Is there an answer here?
Well, I think the answer is not carpet bombing hospitals and apartment buildings. And, right before we came on, the Israeli Air Force was posting photos of, what they've done to Gaza. And it's pretty alarming, right? They have certainly turned parts of Gaza into what we would call a parking lot. And, no, I don't think they should go in there and start killing people. I don't think that, I do think, while Hamas is a group, I think it's also used as fodder to do more than just go after Hamas. I mean, again, as we've said, this is a larger issue that goes beyond Saturday's events. When we look at what the state of Israel, and I should be very clear with that, not Jewish people, the state of Israel, the government has done in the West Bank, has created an open air type of prison of Gaza itself. The attacks were not just random. And I don't mean that to justify at all, but I mean that there have been people who've been living under levels of subjugation that have to be addressed, and they have to be addressed at the international level. And, we have to hold Israel to the same accountability of ethical, moral standards that we would put on Russia, right? We can't say carpet bombing Ukraine is wrong, but carpet bombing Gaza is fine because, hey, the rules are being thrown out, right? Sanctions for these types of killings need to be addressed. And I'll say this, the Human Rights Watch reported that last year in 2022 was one of the deadliest years for Palestinian children in the West Bank, being killed by IDF and other Israeli settlers and police. So, I'm not on board with just killing people. That's where I'm at.
So, Isaac, what the professor is talking about is a humanitarian crisis, the likes of which we have not seen. And the Palestinians are on the brink of that crisis. They're already talking about not having access to food and water, hospitals that are being bombed, a lack of, electricity. We're talking about a huge, huge disaster. What do you see? And the U.S. has got to stand by its ally in the region, Israel. And I think Biden was using careful and coded language, talking to the Israeli government, saying, be careful, because the nation, the world, the U.S. is watching, the world is watching, and you can't just kill innocent children and families and women. But you have, a Jewish spokespersons saying that pretty much all bets are off. Like Hamas has, they have pledged to eradicate Israel from the region, and this act of terrorism has to be responded to with the same, vigor and commitment.
I agree with Professor. There's a fine line that the U.S. has to be at, and if you're going to hold Russia to those standards, you have to hold them to those same standards. We're going to do our job as the UN requires us to do, as a NATO will require us to do. we're going to be there. We're not putting our soldiers in war, but we're going to provide the necessary resources for you to win the war. But you can't just go around and just wipe people out either. So
well, let me say, because here's one of the problems. So I'm literally reading this in real time. Israel says its strikes are targeting sites connected with Hamas. They're saying that Hamas members are hiding in homes and schools and hospitals. And so, therefore, they are justified in bombing schools, homes, and hospitals. They say certain of these neighborhoods, particularly ones where there are medical complexes, is a financial hub for Hamas. And that many of the buildings around this particular hospital are where these terrorists are hiding. So that complicates this, right, Professor? If the justification on the part of Israel is that
you cannot bomb schools and hospitals. You cannot, take out civilians because you're going to get a bad guy or what you perceive to be the bad guy. And again, we see what those types of statements can do to entire regions, right? George Bush said there was weapons of mass destruction, and then 1 million Iraqi civilians were killed. Just because the state of Israel said that there's Hamas, that doesn't mean that there is Hamas. And, and it's very much this, as I've seen over the last couple of days, either it's a binary. Either folks are making this conflation that everyone who's Palestinian is Hamas, or no one who's Palestinian is Hamas, right? No, there are Palestinians who support Hamas for a myriad of reasons. There's Palestinians who don't support Hamas. But what we see the state of Israel almost doing, and it very much feels like, if you've ever seen the Stanley Kubrick film Full Metal Jacket, right? The idea during Vietnam was that the ones that run were Viet Cong, and the ones that didn't run were very well-trained Viet Cong, so therefore kill them all. And that's not something that, we as America, as a world can stand by, because what we are seeing is real-time genocidal tendencies, and already an apartheid where these folks are not able to leave Gaza, are not getting access to things like you said, Areva, water, electricity, gasoline, basic human needs, food. And so it just can't be that.
So, okay, Isaac, this is a real dilemma for Joe Biden, because we have the Red Cross already saying that the siege by Israel is not acceptable. And they are urging the creation of a corridor to allow supplies to enter Gaza and for the protection of aid workers. And the Red Cross is saying we need a safe humanitarian space. And Israel is saying, hell no, it is under siege. We will decide if and when we allow anyone in, including aid workers. And Joe Biden is going to have to decide, like the professor said, if he's going to put pressure on Netanyahu to open up this humanitarian corridor. And what that means for those hardliners who say, we're sorry, women and children, you may just have to be casualties of this war, because we must go after and spare nothing to kill every member of Hamas. When we come forward, I want your opinion on that, Isaac, because Joe Biden is going to face and is already facing this issue in real time. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities and sports figures, elected leaders and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Areva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Areva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the deal.
Isaac, the Israel's defense minister has vowed to allow no food, water, electricity, or fuel into the impoverished enclave that we refer to as the Gaza Strip. The Red Cross is saying this is unacceptable, that they must open a humanitarian corridor. What does all of this mean for the president, who is going to have to make some decisions that may be contrary to statements he's made thus far to his close ally, or our close ally, the United States' close ally, Israel, if they continue to vow not to allow any food, water, or electricity to reach the Palestinian community?
If I'm Joe Biden, I'm calling all of my top Republicans from the Senate and the House, and we're going to sit and we're going to make this a bipartisan effort of what we do. He doesn't want to be the person that just makes that call on his own, but he is going to have to make a decision, and it may be a decision where you put troops on the ground in order to make sure that the American Red Cross can go in there and that we have a safe pathway in.
Wait a minute, you're saying hold on a second. You're saying that Biden may have to defy what the Israeli government is saying and say, we're going to send some U.S. troops to create this humanitarian corridor, even though the minister of Israel has said no food, no water, no electricity?
You might have to, because it's a humanitarian crisis. You just might have to. We cannot sit idly by and let just innocent people just die. The U.S. can't do that. So he might have to do that. I think that's why he needs to pull in those Republican counterparts. How do you guys feel about this? What are we going to do? And if we defy it, it'll be a bipartisan effort, and it won't be just at the helm of Joe Biden.
All right, that sounds all nice and very reasonable, except, Dr. Smiley, we have a problem. I don't know who those reasonable Republicans are that Isaac is talking about, because they surely have not shown themselves to us to date. These are the same people that cannot pick their own speaker. These are the people that would rather see this country, the government shut down, definitely see Joe Biden fail, and are not likely to do anything that they think would give him, any kind of support, even if it's in the best interest of the country or the best interest of hundreds of thousands of people including little kids that might die.
Yeah, this is a Republican Party that's probably kind of watering at the mouth with how they're going to be able to spin this and use this against Biden in the upcoming election, and where he made pitfalls and where he stumbled. While they might do the exact same thing, just in the claims of the beheaded children that the Biden administration kind of walked back because those claims have been unverified. I've already seen Republicans already saying, see, this is not presidential. Meanwhile, you scroll down 5 tweets before, they were tweeting out the exact same headline. So, this is clearly going to be used against Joe Biden when it comes to the election about, his geopolitical stances. And, I'm sure Donald Trump would say this would never even happen if he was president. And
oh yeah, I got to throw him in the mix. Hold on, Dr. Smiley, I got to give this. I'm gonna keep making this hypothetical, enhancing it. This is what we do in law school, Isaac. Okay, so Donald Trump, tethered himself to Israel and was a favorite, right, of Bibi, as President Biden likes to call Netanyahu. And now, though, he came out basically and said that, Bibi got played and, he's not the strong man that he thought he was. And he's praising the leader of Hamas. Donald Trump, so, is not the face of, the American support for Israel. But they say in this article, Joe Biden has a billboard over the main highway through Tel Aviv. And it's a big old billboard of Joe Biden's face where he's being thanked by the Israelis for his unwavering support. So you got the billboard of your face over Tel Aviv, and you're saying he's going to send in troops that are going to defy the Israeli defense minister and the prime minister? Is that what you're saying, Isaac? You're still standing by that position?
I'm saying that there's going to have to be that. It might not come to that, but if he has to do it, he has to do it. Are you just going to let people just have genocide in Israel? I mean, if you're just going to let him just kill people and just not get help to the people, and then say that we are a country of democracy and we're a country of humanitarianism, and we're just going to let that happen? So we have.
Well, I think I think what's happening, what Dr. Smiley and I are saying is happening, is Israel is going to spin this as, no, we're not killing innocent women and children. We're bombing hospitals and schools and apartment buildings because that's where Hamas is hiding. And, that's the gaslighting that, we may continue to see, and that may be the safe harbor for someone like Joe Biden. It's going to be very difficult for Joe Biden to do anything that is seen as 100% Israeli. We already seen, Dr. Smiley, any elected official that has come out and suggested in any way that the Palestinians even have any right to live have faced really harsh critique. So,
and not just politicians, but we've seen celebrities also coming out with statements in support of Israel and condemning the attacks in these kind of what seem to be pre-orchestrated and pre-written templates. But, it's part of the brand, right? I mean, I think everyone can condone violence, especially that harms innocent victims and things like that. But there almost seems to be this pressure that if you don't come out and say something, your brand will get hurt. I mean, there was Justin Bieber who, tweeted out, pray for Israel with a bombed out Gaza in the background, right? So whoever was his PR person clearly didn't do their homework because he was showing a very contradictory image there.
Well, he probably meant it sarcastically, because we've seen a lot of folks trying to use sarcasm as they've weighed in on this, including Black Lives. We talked about this yesterday on the show. Black Lives Matter. They've come out, swinging in favor of the Palestinians, and the backlash towards Black Lives Matter has been incredibly harsh. Talk about being canceled. So some of these same, allies that were standing with them have made it very clear that they are denouncing them and distancing themselves. Yeah, Isaac, I hear what you're saying. Yes. And we would all like to think that the democracy we call the United States would intervene. But Israel is such a special relationship, has such a special relationship with this country. And I'm not certain that even a Joe Biden, with all of his decades of geopolitical experience, navigating these tough issues, building bipartisan support for, complicated bills. This is going to test him in ways that I'm not sure we have seen before. And some of us may end up disappointed in what our government does in this moment. I'm not so convinced, Isaac, that Joe Biden goes in and creates that humanitarian corridor that the Red Cross is demanding and clamoring for. This just might be one of those ugly, ugly moments in our history. We're out of time, guys. This is such a complex conversation. Obviously, we're going to be having it for a while because this crisis is not going to end, unfortunately, anytime soon. Thank you so much for your expertise on this. And Hour 2, the special Call the Tape, hosted by none other than Tavis Smiley. Don't touch that dial. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be